Hello, everybody, and welcome to the next episode of the Rational Trader Podcast. JD here with my co-host Louis Navalier. Another week in the books, and it's Zoom higher. The Fed narrative looks to be set in stone, and great companies that you follow, Louis, are doing really well.
Yardini earlier in the week said we have an earnings meltdown, and then he fired out a bunch of charts backing up his case. So that's definitely underway. And obviously, the big news this week was Oracle missed on sales and earnings, but they went up 40% on good guidance. So that was pretty impressive.
It was interesting because prior to that report, Louis, NVIDIA was trading kind of soft and actually had sold down to Two Sigma. We actually were able to get in at right at that moment because of our stringent following of those trading guidelines. And Oracle comes out, and boom, that lifted
Yeah.
NVIDIA.
They reversed what Goldman did. About a week earlier, Goldman had said that the data center stocks are kind of nearing the end of their run, and so they all get hit with profit taking. And then Oracle comes out and says, "Here's this incredible guidance," and everything reversed. So
You and I are, and more you than me, part of the older generation. So we've seen melt ups before, and I'm specifically referring to the 1990s. This feels,
no, it's rough. There's a lot of small cap meltdown too underway. For something as big as Oracle to go up 40% in a day, it's shocking. I had a subscriber call me because he shorted Oracle, and I says,
oh no.
why would you short something with earnings? Because they still had good sales and earnings. They just didn't beat. And then I talked about it on my Market Buzz show, and I says, please take 2 seconds to use StockRadar or check things and quit being a cowboy. He's this particular client doesn't understand fundamentals and is manic, and
If you don't mind,
obviously he's a gambler.
well, and I understand that mentality, but if you don't mind, maybe we can dive into the weeds here a little bit because in 2018, you and I did a white paper on shorting stocks, and this is relevant to something you put out actually in the last week or so regarding the performance of your A, B, C, D, E, F rated.
I had some low ranked stocks spike based on our back testing, and that's called short covering. And
Yes, but
ugliest thing on Wall Street is a short covering rally.
it is. And you have to be really careful when you're shorting stocks. But there is efficacy in the idea of if you are going to sell short a stock, it would be wise not to sell a stock like Oracle that scores very highly on a number of factors that you follow. And instead, because this is what the white paper uncovered, short the stocks that have very, very low scores in terms of earnings, revenue growth, actually margin collapse.
The ultimate goal is to short things that go bankrupt, and apparently you don't have to pay taxes on your gains if the stock disappears. Ultimate goal.
With the caveat that you do realize how incredibly difficult it is to kill a company in this country.
Yeah, something called bankruptcy. Yeah.
Almost impossible. I mean, it's the last time you saw a publicly traded stock go to zero. It
Yeah.
doesn't happen often.
Well, yeah, you need fraud or something. But what's interesting is we have a company called Tricolor. They're a subprime auto lender. Filed for bankruptcy, and they filed for liquidation. So this is apparently going to hit BlackRock. That's apparently going to hit JP Morgan, according to Bloomberg.
Oh,
And there might have been some fraud involved. So their bonds are trading for just pennies on the dollar instead of a dollar. I'm sure they're oversold. I believe they faked all the auto loan bundling. But this is one of the credit concerns we have. And because leveraged debt is now 10% of our GDP, well, to me, private credit and leveraged debt is now 10% of our GDP. There's ripple effects. So got to be careful here.
you follow a couple payment companies. Zezel is one of them, and the other one was Pay.
And then CCRD, which is credit card. Payments is weak right now. It's a good buy, but it's a bunny stock, totally liquid.
What's the ticker on that one? PAY. Okay.
Then trading water.
And
No,
that one is SEZL.
and then CCRD is okay. So you go into the small cap world, you have to wait for the earnings to drop kick and drive the stocks higher. So
Yeah, and that you can have, well, you've talked about this phenomenon before, which is markets are only efficient 4 times a year,
we're
4 months a year.
yeah, during
And that's when earnings are released. So in some of these names, you're not going to get you're not going to see anything. Like you said, Zezel's treading water,
yeah.
their next earnings report. And I would think that 3% GDP growth and um, I guess employment is showing some cracks, but paying their bills, I guess, is the point. And those stocks should do
Yeah,
well.
but even the wealthier people, they're being slower to pay. But that Jamie Dimon expressed some concerns this week. But he's always been a worrywart. We just have to cut rates ASAP and help people out. Treasury Secretary Bassett said it best that half of America has a debt problem, and those are the people we got to help with the tax cuts and lower interest rates.
Well, and in all layers, the economic, I guess, stratus, what's the word I'm looking for? The layer of wealth requires the ones below them to be there to buy their assets should they want to sell.
Yeah.
I'm speaking mostly about housing, right?
Oh, housing's dead. Is being discounted to be sold. So maybe in the Midwest where you guys are more normal and things never got inflated, it'll be okay. But like we are now in Arizona, that's a price per foot market. Homes are very, very soft. I'm in the hottest real estate market in the country, which is a Bear Island, 8 miles south of Palm Beach, and they're leveling mayor to build bigger mansions, and because the dirt is so expensive.
Do developers approach you, Louis? I'm just curious how that works. I would,
Only
do they
like
come
twice
door
a
to
week.
door to solicit you?
Only like twice a week. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, the town is actually run by a developer. He just quit. They did a Wall Street Journal article on him. But yeah, Larry Ellison came in town and bought the hotel up the street, and and Sean Homo, he's running it for 130,000 a month. I don't know if he got that. But yeah, we have famous people here, Tony Robbins, you know. So
Did
yeah,
you Kirk, Louis?
no, I did not know Sean.
I know he's a lot of time down there.
I think he was at Mar-a-Lago when I was there once, but I didn't say hi to him. So.
Okay. Okay.
I'm
Very safe.
not a demographic group, but obviously he got all the college kids to vote for Trump, and he had a very unique movement, and will be sorely missed. And of course, they have the shooter in custody. The dad turned him in. So
Yeah, that's a very predictable outcome. Once they had a picture of him, if you're a family member and you see that picture, you know it's your. I mean, it's.
lawyers and stuff, but yeah, he'll sure he'll plead insanity and to escape the death sentence, but he'll obviously he's deranged to begin with.
Beyond deranged. It's really Utah has the death penalty. I'd be surprised. The guy that those students in Idaho copped to a plea and to avoid the death sentence, and I don't think they'll let this guy do that.
Well, it depends. He'll say he's plead mental incapacity. Yeah.
Yeah, story. All I can't imagine. That poor. Just I feel for.
Yeah. But, their parents give up on their kids if they can't think they fix them. So, but, at least they did the right thing. Kudos to the dad. So, we'll
Absolutely.
see what happens. I'm sure that wasn't an easy decision, but he doesn't want his kid to kill more people. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, he had no choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, the kid's insane, you know what I mean? Or mentally incompetent. They don't know those people.
The guy Mangione executed this health CEO. He was insane too, but I mean he's in complete of his faculties. I don't, it's a that people can be that ice cold
Well,
and
he 3D done and it only had so many shots in it, because it was plastic.
yeah.
So,
When I think of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, and
yeah.
I don't see any of those folks making a 3D gun.
But there's no excuse for Mangione either, other than, I mean, it was an incredible pain and on drugs. But, if you want the downside of drugs, just There's a Netflix episode on Charlie Sheen, and Charlie Sheen just went on Joe Rogan. So you can
Yeah,
go get
what you
full
mentioned that
hours.
story before we hit record. What did you know the Charlie Sheen story?
Well, you should watch it. Okay. All I know, he did so many drugs that they thought he was dealing. And they were mostly for his personal consumption, maybe some, and, they had the Heidi Fleiss thing, and went from coke to crack cocaine and even injected cocaine in his body, had to go to emergency.
Oh Lord.
He's a hunter. I think he liked his cocaine. He's been sober now for 9 years apparently. So, but he's out in talk shows and you can dry out, but
Yeah.
I like cocaine too. And then he says, "Oh, let me show you. Let's make some crack." And then they both went in their own little spiral. So it's very tragic, And to his dad was always bailing him out, trying to get him well, and so hopefully it is now, you know.
Louis, let's go to the Federal Reserve. Big meeting, yes, or maybe not a big meeting coming up. What do you out of the Federal Reserve? You and I'm saying, along with many folks in the administration, that they're woefully behind. They are. You could make an argument not only for a 50 basis point cut, but a 100. And I don't think.
I think do 25 because inflation was mixed, although it was mostly food and energy on the CPI.
CPI was fantastic.
CPI's been negative the last 6 months.
Right.
I think they're going to do a quarter because of that CPI. But new claims are a 4-year high, so that got their attention, and they had the big department report and disappeared trailing 12 months through March. So there's clearly a problem with the data. So let's dot plot is that's to me the dot plot's the biggest news.
That will be big news. I mean, what to make of the dot plot because it's often erroneous. It doesn't really. These guys.
It's important, and obviously, I business with a very famous, and he pointed out that barely 14% of the CPI is to inflation or tariffs. And when you add up all, it's less than 1% right now. So the tariff stuff's just not showing up. Okay. And also they're going to get strong enough said a lot, and they're still making a deal. Europe is, if you give on this, we'll give on here. It's all negotiations.
Yeah.
And but the chaos has thrown Mexico and Canada into a recession. Asia's bordering on a recession, and Northern Europe's certainly a recession. You've got, France lost their minister because the prime minister budget negotiations. They appointed a new one, but Marie Le Pen, National Rally Party, controls parliament, and she's been banned from running for office because by the EU, but president, I mean, but she's a good lieutenant, but France is implode. Britain is definitely imploding. Keir Starmer can't staff. His head gal resigned over property tax, not paying her or she didn't pay all her property taxes, and I guess she was trying to hide it. And then Mendelsohn, the ambassador to the U.S., just got really nailed in the Epstein minutes. Now, this guy didn't like Trump, and I wouldn't be surprised if Trump released that just to take him out. Trump's going to be in Britain in a week or so. So we'll see how that comes out. But, when half you can't pay their electric bills, you got a problem. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the head of BMW and the head of Mercedes calling on the EU to quit the EV mandate because a lot of them can't compete with Stellantis EU for emissions violations. And the EU says more EVs, and Stellantis says we compete with China. So Trump just eliminated all Tesla, even Rivian, money selling the EV tax credits. That's all been wiped out in America, but still exists in Europe. So there's a lot of chaos underway. Volkswagen's doing good in EVs though, but they're not that profitable as ICE engines. So it's going to get interesting to see what happens.
And Louis, all while this is going on, the volatility index below 15, suggesting a ton of complacency. And I know a lot of folks suggest that the market is overbought. But boy, when you melt up like this, going back to the analogy to the 1990s, these things can life of their own.
Well, we're the oasis. And I'll give you another example. And money sloshes around the world.
That's true.
But a lot is going on. But SEC Chairman Paul Akins, he called out Europe for something called the International Financial Reporting Standards, and who want everybody to report sustainability and climate issues. And he basically said, we're not accepting that accounting. Okay. Because you got to realize when they pass all these things, they create consulting industries unbelievably lucrative for companies. Do you know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah.
And the SEC was the previous SEC under Gensler was trying to force all the ESG disclosure. And I have a lot of ESG because I got fired when I had it was 5-star and top 1% for an ESG manager because they needed my record. It was actually the Rockefeller family.
Okay.
$2 billion fund. I pulled over 800 million out of it and blew the fund up because it triggered this tax time bomb. But the Rockefeller family needed my record to raise money because I guess there wasn't that good. And this is the rock they're all fossil fuel. Interesting is there's the East Coast ESG Union. There was West Coast ESG, which was carbon, and then there was London ESG, which was a little of everything. Okay.
Yep.
And it's like, I have gone through this. I went through my entire portfolio and I said, well, I have Costco, they're liberal. I have Sprouts Market, that's organic food.
Right.
I have Walmart.
You have Vital Farms.
No, Vital Farms we've sold.
Okay.
Um, but I think pretty much my stocks failed her criteria because AI is, in natural gas plants and planet and blah blah blah. And so interesting, and from Berkeley and trained in all this stuff. But even in Berkeley, when they went to gas at the homes, it was on the ballot. They voted 69 to 31 to keep their natural gas. So these are just fringe groups, and they created consultancies for all their friends. And when they cracked down on GOs, the non-government organizations, they really exposed that. Like Stacey Abrams, she got $2 billion to make more efficient energy in the homes, and she did upgrade 89 homes to her credit. But that's $2 billion for 89 homes is a lot.
Yeah, it sure is. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Louis, I thought the biggest news of the week, and let's finish it up with discussion. It didn't get a lot of, there were so many other things going on, but the incursion by Russia with their into NATO territory over airspace. Um, my roots are in, and so when I see stuff like it freaks me out.
Well, to Trump's credit, he got NATO, to be more hawkish, and
Their jets in
yeah,
response.
and they're paying more in the. So we're not going to leave NATO now because, for lack of a better word, they did what we wanted. Yeah, it's a mess. You overrun Poland. I don't. I think I was listening to, but we had all our bioweapons in Ukraine. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember.
Yep.
And I thought it was 18 labs. They said 38, but they were doing testing on the orphans. And a lot of the orphans are getting smart and says, no, I don't want this shot. Do you know what I mean? The things that we were doing, because we can't do them in America, we're quite, the whole background of Ukraine is I mean, it's but yeah, want Poland. So this is going to get very interesting.
Well, it's something to think about. I
Look,
guess the way
look what Israel did her. I mean,
right, right.
in a neighborhood missile strike. It wasn't a bomb. It was a missile, a freaking airplane.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, you think they'd hit or something. You know what I mean? And apparently they gave us about to happen. But I just think that the world's getting to be interesting. And so, I'm sure Zelensky fears assassination. Putin fears assassination. The question is, how many Putins are there? He's supposed to have body doubles now. So
Right, right.
it's going to
My
get
point
very
being,
interesting.
my point is when volatility is low and we're in a melt up like this, you have to take things one time, and there can be an arrow that comes from any direction at any time. You just don't.
It just makes money come into America.
Hmm.
I
Yeah,
mean,
that's a good. That's a
is our crime.
yeah.
You saw the Iranian gal got killed and she got stabbed, and She didn't do anything.
Hmm.
Trump's going to go. I mean, he's hell bent to do that.
Sure
And
is.
that's going to get complicated because he may not have the cooperation of the police. Yeah, he has the cooperation of the Washington mayor and police at this moment, but that's been extended. So it's pretty simple. There's just a in America. I'm from again Berkeley, California.
It's a drug and mental.
When I went to when I was down known 18 people, there had been all home invasions and carjackings, no guns. The 19th person who murdered was an officer. Somebody got his gun and killed him. But I had a friend get off in San Francisco by another person. He did have a crack cocaine problem, and he was in the wrong place. But
I'm surprised at any teeth.
he was a Mormon guy, and I was talking to his brother, and we're trying to get him to Betty Ford, and they don't want you in rehab unless you go. And boy, when he was high, he was a happy guy. And
Yeah, that's how it works. That's why
he was
those
he was
drugs
a
are so
financial
addictive.
advisor, but
Yeah.
it's just it was even in my office in Reno, California paroles their prisoners, and they have these prisoner dumps, and they're mostly crystal meth opiates addicts,
Yeah.
and they're wandering around,
Another, I think I do. I mentioned before we hit record, my mother lives in a community in this, not in the center of the city, but it's city property and busy. There's a homeless Tucson as well, and just on the other side of the wall, I mean, just literally right to my left, a homeless encampment. And because we're on the West Coast, I'm, you know, I'm working outside here pre and just hear, the activity of the community and homeless community just on the other side of the wall here. It's actually a little frightening.
yeah, I'm sure those people have drug problems.
They do, and so that makes them very volatile. You know what you're gonna, are they gonna try to climb a wall here, while I'm working and mug me, so they get their daily
Well,
fix.
Arizona used to be, you could literally have a gun on your passenger seat. I don't know if they've changed the laws. But they don't like you to go, you know what I mean?
Right.
If the officer pulls you over, they always approach you from behind. Don't want to have a gun in your glove box or concealed. If you do, better show them the permit fast and get out of the car.
Right.
But I know other guys that literally they would display their gun on the passenger seat when they got pulled over, which I wouldn't want to do.
I mean that's lead trouble.
Well, it's like what you're doing, it's fine, but not everybody knows what they're doing. I don't know if you've ever been to Israel. Israel's
No,
probably
I
the
haven't.
safest place on the planet because everybody knows how to use a gun.
Yeah,
And
they have mandatory.
in the military.
Yeah,
And when you go in, it's always one way in, one way out. And, you carry interesting questions, but it's a fatalistic society. So there's an incident, they don't have to wait for the police. The locals just take care of it, But
sure.
it's again very fatalistic. We're not like that in America. We're trained like that. So, but yeah, you'll probably notice if you decide to go in Arizona, it's less complicated.
Louis, good stuff as always. Let's sit at that. Gonna this episode the grape up. I think that
Yeah,
that seems to be what's going on.
yeah.
So
Now this when they're going to get seasonal, we get the tailwind. All the chaos and money come to America, shoves their rates down. So
yeah,
a
and
lot to look forward to.
yeah, I think so. And I'd be surprised if we get 50 bips next week, but
All
not
right.
counting on it.
Okay.
All
Thanks.
right, this is JD for the Rational. Thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you all next week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks.